You're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, 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 other than day one.
Donald Trump has successfully moved the Overton window in a way that is as dangerous for the future of democracy in this country as anything else.
This is what Vout and Project 2025 wanted.
Newsom is he's daring Tom Homan to come and arrest him. Should he do it? I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great.
They control the Congress, they control the White House, and they control the courts. And so, of course, they're massively overreaching. And yes, they are getting away with it right now.
This is clearly a man who cannot tolerate criticism of him or what he does, which is exactly what authoritarianism is all about.
The New York Times is just as fake as CNN and MSDNC. They really are the enemy of the people.
What he is saying, rather bluntly, if you stand up to Donald Trump, he will punish you.
Protesters in Philadelphia, state capitals in California, Minnesota, Michigan, Texas, Wisconsin, Indiana, and others showed up to oppose Trump, Musk, and Project 2025.
US and President Trump has overseen America's largest military parade in decades as nationwide protests take place against his leadership.
Demonstrations are happening right across the United States today to oppose the Trump administration.
Two visions of America. On a day the country's deepening divide was there for all the world to see.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. I am Jeff Waldorf, a logical leftist, and you're watching Logically Left. So, I've got a great show for y'all today. Okay, so we got Dementia done. Okay, messing up on, look, he's just having a gigantic brain fart, which does not surprise me, shouldn't surprise any of you. We're going to have a little fun with it, because of course we are.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV. I'm cognitively there.
He's cognitively there, everybody. So don't worry. Then we have the curious case of an Epstein prosecutor getting pushed out at the DOJ. Now, this has got some interesting, curious twists and turns here. And, look, it could be one thing, could be one reason, could be another reason. And we'll get into it. I'll cover all sides of this. All right. We have Tommy Tuberville having a message for any American citizens getting caught up in ICE raids. You're not, you are probably going to believe it. And it's pretty horrific. And then we've got the how the swamp works to kill things like direct free file on your taxes. So, hey, before, they were testing out a program to allow you to actually file your taxes for free. Not like the TurboTax, oh, it's free, but not really, because there's an asterisk, right? Well, that's gone. And you're not going to be surprised why they killed it. It got doged. But once again, I'm going to get into the details and into the timing. And then we have a potentially explosive case. A non-binary American citizen in Canada that was going to be deported. Turns out they may not be. What is going on? So remember, American citizen in Canada facing deportation, but might not. Interesting. So I've got the details on that case as well. Really, really important, possibly precedent-setting stuff. Okay, and really a big indictment of how terrible things are in the United States. How much LGBTQ plus rights have been rolled back in the short time that Trump has been president. So, I mean, really, really, important stuff here. Okay. All right. So with that said, that's the breakdown of what we're going to do today. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Very important that you do so. And with that said, let's get into it. And we'll start with I would say that this is a bit awkward of a situation. All right. President Donald Trump appeared to have a bit of a senior moment in the White House while talking about the future of Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. Take a look.
He's a terrible Fed chair. I was surprised he was appointed. I was surprised, frankly, that Biden put him in and extended him, but they did. So, no, we're not planning on doing anything. We're very concerned.
Okay, so you might be wondering, okay, what was the senior moment there? I don't know what you're talking about. Hold on. So he said, look, yes, Jerome Powell, what a terrible Fed chair. And I was very surprised when he was appointed. Really? Oh, I'm very surprised that Joe Biden put him in and extended him. Huh. Well, you know what? You ain't the only one who was surprised to hear about that, because it turns out that the reality is a little bit different.
President, there are a few decisions more important than nominating leaders of integrity and good judgment to hold trusted positions in public office. And few of those trusted positions are more important than the chairman of the Federal Reserve. Accordingly, it is my pleasure and my honor to announce my nomination of Jerome Powell to be the next chairman of the Federal Reserve. Congratulations, Jay.
Whoopsie. That was back in 2017. Okay. Donald Trump appointing, who was that? Jerome Powell. Okay. Wow. Way to go. Stupid. No, but you know what? Maybe he just forgot. I mean, it was a long time ago. Wow. So yeah, of course, maybe he just forgot he was president and appointed Jerome Powell. I don't know.
I'm cognitively there.
You know what? That can't be it. Because he's cognitively there, everybody. All right? He's a very smart person.
And then they say, "Is Donald Trump an intellectual?" Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
They say, that's amazing. How did you do that?
How did you do that? And that was, of course, what he said about his cognitive test. Okay, that he aced. He aced a cognitive test, everybody. And it's actually that AOC and Joe Biden should be tested. That's it. Again, he loves his IQ test. He loves his cognitive tests, and he loves bragging about not being. I mean, look, you saw the video, okay? I really do think that there is some sort of dementia going on here. I don't know, or maybe he just can't keep his lies straight. I don't know, but wow, that is amazing, just amazing. Okay, yeah, that's our president. All right, yeah, wow. Okay, anyway, social media weighed in on this one. And of course, social media didn't really disappoint here. K. Bizzle writes, "This is severe cognitive decline. Forgets his own decisions. Contradicts himself hourly. Can't track basic facts. He needs a neurologist." We need a new president. That's what we need. Another says, "Dementia dining strikes again." Simple as that. All right. Another asks, "Sir, why do you not remember you, Donald Trump, appointed Powell in 2017 and not Joe Biden? Did you make a mistake in nominating Powell in 2017? I mean, look, he could argue that, oh, yeah, I totally made a mistake. Wow. Turns out I don't hire the best people, but then, of course, he would have to admit that he doesn't hire the best people. So, can't do that. Oh, no. No.
Can't let that happen.
And so, but anyway, this social media user asks, why do you want to remove him now? Why did you have to ask House Republicans? Are you unable to make a decision yourself as president? Maybe, or maybe he's too lazy. I don't know. And finally, I think a better question here came from Covey, who said, it's not even a question, but an observation here. Reporters in that room just stood there and listened to that man lie about Biden appointing Jerome Powell as Fed chair and said nothing. Exactly. That's kind of the problem here. Why do you think, though, that those reporters are allowed to be in that room? Because they're spineless and they won't ask questions. They will not correct the baby. And so, and there's a reason. If you do correct the baby, you are thrown out. But anyway, why don't we get into the reason here that Trump wants to remove Jerome Powell? He wants lower interest rates. Now, I believe that Trump wants to lower interest rates so that Trump can pay less on whatever outstanding loans he may have. I mean, again, when it comes to Trump and his motivations for things, it usually comes down to whatever helps Donald Trump save money, or whatever helps Donald Trump look good. Okay, whatever helps Donald Trump in whatever way, he's going to do it. Okay, but anyway, as far as his personal finances go, back in September 2020, the New York Times noted that Trump is personally responsible for loans and other debts totaling $421 million, with most of it coming due within 4 years and having no obvious way to repay them. So now Trump's made a lot of money since then, okay, and avoided a lot of responsibility. And so, again, that's old news. So why am I bringing up old news? I mean, especially the fact that, back in December of 2020, for example, he owed about $330 million to Deutsche Bank, due in 2023 and 2024. Obviously, it's 2025 now. So why am I bringing up his past debts? Well, look, he paid off a loan that he had on 40 Wall Street this year, which set him back about $160 million. That is a pretty big chunk of change, okay? And his latest financial disclosures from 2024 that I could found that he still had between $346 to $455 million in liabilities, otherwise known as debt. Okay, now some of that debt, I should say, is a result of some of his loans. Okay, his other debt also comes from court judgments against him, like what he owes E. Jean Carroll. Now, that's important because if a good amount of that debt is tied up in loans, then yeah, he's going to be very interested in lowering interest rates so that he doesn't have to pay as much on those loans. You see where I'm coming from here? Now, there are other arguments, of course, as to why he may want to lower interest rates. For one, maybe a lack of understanding how the economy actually works. But it also could be like, okay, maybe if you lower interest rates, it obviously makes money easier to borrow for corporations, for companies, for people who maybe want to get a house or a car or something like that, right? And if that is allowed to happen, well, then that would help the economy, make it look like it's getting better, things are speeding up and all that. And so that makes Trump look good. He can make an argument of, hey, look, the economy is fantastic. Look, more people are borrowing money for houses, more people are borrowing money for cars and all that stuff. And it's those lower interest rates, right? Now, the problem, of course, with that is that you lower interest rates, that's going to raise inflation. Inflation, kind of a big problem, okay? And so that might work against any stimulation of the economy. And so, look, inflation, big problem. It's been a stubborn problem and one that the American people are keenly aware of. They're not happy with inflation. They weren't happy with inflation under Biden. They're not happy with inflation under Trump. And look, another problem, another complicating factor here also is the on-again, off-again tariffs. Okay? And so, look, clothes, furniture, bed linens, they're among some of the goods that jumped in price in June, according to federal government data. You also had toys. Price of toys actually increased about 6 times faster in June than it had in the 2 months prior to that. And the reason is, of course, is that a lot of the stuff to make toys, or a lot of toys themselves, are imported. Okay? And again, that's a result of the Trump on-again, off-again tariffs. In fact, they contributed modestly to the rise of inflation last month, analysts told ABC News, citing the price hikes in product categories made up primarily of imports. But they added that overall price increases, i.e. the inflation in other parts of the economy, were owed largely to a rise in both housing, which again, lower interest rates might help with that, and food products, with little connection to the tariffs. And so there are plenty of reasons why he would want to, or why he is pushing to have Powell lower that interest rate. Now, again, if he does, and he knows this, that's why he's not doing it, that's going to make inflation worse and could slow down the economy. And so, and not only that, but look, they do not want to lower interest rates because they don't know how Donald Trump's on-again, off-again tariffs are going to have an impact on inflation. Last week, Powell had admitted that, yeah, we probably would have already lowered interest rates if it weren't for Trump's tariffs. So there's that. Now, another thing that could decide if they lower rates ultimately after all is the job market, which looks strong, yes, but looks can be deceiving. Goldman Sachs chief U.S. economist David Miracle wrote this week that, quote, while the labor market looks healthy, it has become harder to find a job. Okay, well then, if it's healthy, then that's not a good thing, okay? If it's hard to find a job, that doesn't necessarily mean that it is healthy, okay? So the economy might look great on the outside, but actually not be great. CEOs are not planning on hiring more people right now. I mean, you've got a lot of different factors, one of them being AI. It's sucking up the jobs and the power and the water. And so you've got that. And again, all this economic uncertainty surrounding tariffs. And so I'm not really anticipating a rate cut anytime soon if things continue on their current path. And I am by no means an economist, so things could change. But anyway, getting back to Trump here, what if he ends up firing Powell and putting in someone who will lower interest rates anyway, because that's ultimately what he would want to do, right? Well, I think even he knows that firing Powell will end up doing more damage to the economy than you could imagine. I mean, again, just the threat of firing Powell caused a massive sell-off in the markets and ironically made interest rates go higher. Oops. So for now, I don't know what's going to happen, but I think now, for right now, all you're seeing is Trump having bluster, rage, and maybe some dementia. Okay. Moving on here. Lower interest rates lead to higher inflation. I learned that in high school. Yes. And at a time where inflation is already not great. Yeah. Wouldn't be a great time for that. Anyway, let's move on here. A prosecutor who worked on the cases against Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Sean Diddy Combs has been fired from the Department of Justice. And that's not because they did a bad job on the Diddy Combs case. Okay. No, Maureen Comey, which should already give you an idea of why she was fired, who worked as a lawyer in the Southern District of New York since November of 2015, was fired without reason. So they didn't give a reason. The Washington Post reported that the notice informing the younger Comey of her termination provided no reason, citing the broad powers afforded to the president in the U.S. Constitution. That means Trump is like, just get rid of Comey. Now, according to sources contacted by ABC News, Maureen lost her job because Trump didn't like the idea of having a Comey working in his administration, even though he had previously had a Comey working in his administration. Oh, yeah, that's probably why. She is, yes, the daughter of ex-FBI Director James Comey, who was, once again, fired by Trump back in 2019 following the FBI investigation of potential Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. election. So it looks like it's pretty petty and vindictive stuff. Okay. Now, that's not the end of the story here. The timing here, to me, seems rather suspicious. Seems rather curious, okay? Again, considering how, I don't know, she had worked on the Epstein case that helped put Epstein behind bars and Maxwell, and now just happens to be at the time where the Epstein stuff is blowing up in Trump's face. Weird. I mean, MAGA, look, a lot of members of MAGA are not thrilled that he had failed to deliver on his promise of releasing the Epstein files, the client list. For years, they claimed that it existed, and now you have Pam Bondi, you got Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, all saying the complete opposite. Oh, no. You know what? Client list never existed. They don't exist. They never existed. And this is Trump. You're stupid for believing it. And you are no longer my supporters. Weird. That's a great message, right? But, look, that said, Charlie Kirk, who promised to be done talking about it, even though he's clearly not done talking about it, he decided to furiously spin that message from Trump into, oh, no, he's not actually attacking you.
As President Donald Trump is upset on Truth Social, I do not think he's attacking all of you in the rank and file. Instead, President Donald Trump is venting off some anger right now because he thinks that this is being used to derail his presidency. He thinks that this is being used to derail all of his success. When the grassroots would say, it's not actually a mainstream media-driven narrative. The mainstream media has actually been very disinterested in this. This is we've got your six. We have your back. We're not trying to take you out. The grassroots is not trying to make you look bad. We want to try and make sure the bad people that have done such terrible things to you can finally be held accountable.
Oh, you see? Donald Trump, he's not mad at you. He's just venting. You see it? Yes, he's venting. Oh, okay. Is that why he called this entire thing a hoax? And that his followers, he doesn't want people who want transparency. Okay? He doesn't want people who are worried about the Epstein files to be his followers anymore. I mean, that's what he said. So, no, I don't really believe it. Okay? I don't believe him at all.
Really?
Okay. Look, here's the thing. His new talking point here, and this, I believe this is linked to the Comey thing, and maybe I'm wrong. Okay? I kind of feel like Glenn Beck with the whiteboard right now, okay? But just hear me out, okay? His new talking point has been, oh, the Epstein files? Yeah, that was actually written by Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and James Comey. Oh, so okay, so Comey wrote the Epstein files, and so that's why they're a hoax. And so now that is also why we're going to get rid of his daughter, who happened to have been one of the people who prosecuted Epstein over a hoax. So that feels like, I don't know, it seems like this is the reason. All right. And again, I could be wrong. I could be drawing lines between things that aren't actually there. I don't know. But it's how I feel. I feel it in my guts, man. Okay. Look, it is interesting, too, that Trump hired people who gave Epstein, Alex Acosta, a sweetheart deal to keep him out of federal prison. Isn't that funny? And yet, fired a person who actually put Epstein in prison. I don't know. Again, I can't say that for sure that Trump is in the Epstein files, but goddamn, moves like this, which might be completely unrelated, only serve to make you feel a little bit, or seem a little bit more guilty. Okay? And that's what it feels like. Again, I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying the optics here, terrible. Terrible optics. And again, this could just be the fact that she is a Comey and he just found out about it. Oh my God, what is a Comey doing in my administration? Kick her out, kick her out. I don't know. Or it also could be an attempt, part of the attempt to shift the blame to Biden and Comey for his failure to release the files. And maybe that's just a way to try to get his base off of his nuts. I don't know. I'm just saying, there's a lot of suspicion here. A lot of suspicious moves. And the more he tries to deny everything and to shift the conversation away from Epstein and the client list and the files, the more it's going to grow. The more it is going to stick around. Okay. And again, the more Congress pushes back, Republicans in Congress not, voting against releasing the files too. That's the other thing too. Okay. I mean, members of Congress, even MAGA Mike Johnson, who's like, oh, we should release the Epstein files, then voted against releasing Epstein files. And there you go. Just lots of curious stuff going on here. Okay. Yeah, appointed by Trump, but now it's Biden's fault. That's how it always tends to work out. All right. America's dumbest senator, Tommy Tuberville, is now telling U.S. citizens that if they do not want to get arrested by ICE, and I'm talking about U.S. citizens here, okay, then if you don't want to get arrested by ICE, immigration, then, well, maybe you should just stop hanging around illegals.
So, Senator, do you care if U.S. citizens accidentally get detained in ICE raids?
If U.S. citizens?
Yeah, it's been happening a lot. It's been happening a lot with veterans in particular. Yeah.
Well, first of all, don't put yourself in a situation where that happens, okay? And I'm sure with all the illegals we have in this country, you're going to probably have some mistakes happen. That's going to happen. But, again, as long as we take care of it the right way, understand they are a citizen, let them go. But, again, if you're going to be hanging around people that are not citizens of this country, some things like that are going to probably happen.
Is there anything people can do to take care of themselves? Like, how can they do to prevent that?
Don't hang around illegals.
Okay.
Bottom line, because President Trump has said, we're going to go after you. And at the end of the day, if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, something bad could happen.
Got it.
So credit to Pablo Manriquez for asking that question and getting some clarification from Tommy Tuberville. about what you should do. Oh, just don't hang around people. Well, how do you know if someone is undocumented? You don't. You don't. But of course they know. You know why? Because people like Tommy Tuberville can always tell. All they have to do is just look at your skin color. And that's the thing. Okay. This is just incredibly insidious, actually. This entire idea. Oh, yeah. Don't hang around illegals, which means you gotta what? Ask everybody around you for their paperwork so that you don't get arrested by ICE for being near them. That's really messed up. It's so insidious here. Okay, he's trying to pit people against each other, right? White people versus anybody who's not white, essentially. Okay, and he wants white people to aggressively question everyone else. What, yeah, papers, please. Show me your papers. This is what happened with Jewish people. Okay. Under the Nazis, okay? Getting people to distrust each other, getting people to tattle on each other. It's sick. And again, telling white people to not hang around immigrants or people that might be Latino, Hispanic, whatever, if you don't want to be arrested by ICE. Again, it's just incredibly gross and racist, which, again, leads me to this old clip.
The Republican Party's racist.
Yes, they are. And look, there goes your freedom of association. He wants people to profile each other because that's how they view it. They profile other people all the time, and now they want the average American to profile their neighbors. And look, there's a great reason that this reporter asked a question. Yes, there has been a lot of veterans, U.S. veterans, that have been apprehended and detained by ICE from these raids. Last week, a U.S. citizen and Army veteran who was working security had his car windows broken. He was pepper sprayed by ICE and then detained for 3 days. Yeah. Look, I mean, this is horrific, absolutely horrific. And look, there's been at least 15 U.S. citizens that were detained by ICE that have been identified. I'm going to give you a couple of the names here. Brian Gavidia, American citizen. He was videotaped being detained back in June in his hometown of Montebello, California, by ICE, who physically assaulted him and interrogated him about where he was born. Okay. What city were you born in? What city? Show me your papers. Another, Jose Hermosillo, an American citizen and resident of New Mexico. Hermosillo was falsely arrested for illegally entering the country. That's what they accused him of. Because he was walking near Border Patrol headquarters. That's what he was doing. He was detained for a total of 10 days before being released on April 17th. And all of this has happened before ICE just got their massive funding boost, making them have more money, more funding than some of the world's militaries. Think about that. Now, Elzin Lamas was stopped during his commute to his job and detained in Westbury, New York, by ICE agents, saying that they were looking for someone fitting his description. Meaning, of course, we're looking for brown people. We're doing racial profiling. Because, of course, George Reitz, a disabled U.S. military veteran and U.S. citizen, was taken by ICE during a raid on a farm in California on July 10th. Reitz identified himself as a U.S. citizen and an employee of the farm that was raided. Reitz was pepper sprayed, tear gassed, his car window smashed, and he was removed from his vehicle at gunpoint, denied due process, which means he got no phone call, no lawyer, and no medical treatment. He was finally released without charges on Sunday, July 13th. I mean, those are just some of the examples, some of the stories that these people have, U.S. citizens have, of meeting the modern Gestapo, because that's what they are. And yet Tuberville's advice, getting back to him, is, well, just don't hang around illegals if you don't want to get picked up. If you don't want to get treated like this, then don't hang around illegals. Oh, okay. Well, now, you may have noticed in some of these examples here, you have people that were going to work or they were at work that happened to get raided by ICE. So now in that situation, what are you supposed to do? Not go to work? Because maybe there might be somebody there who is illegal? Well, that doesn't make any sense, does it? This is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely horrific. I mean, this is not the way a country should be run. This is not freedom. This is why Trump's, polling on this issue, on immigration and how he has handled all of this, is sinking into the toilet. According to a new Reuters Ipsos survey that was released on Wednesday, 41% of Americans approve of what Donald Trump is doing on immigration. Only 28% agreed with the statement that immigration arrests at places of work are good for the country. Now remember that their entire thing was, oh, we're going to get the criminals and we're going to get the people that are sponging off the welfare, which again, that's not true. That they don't qualify for welfare. Okay? So they're not sponging off of welfare that they don't qualify for. No, they work. And so that's where ICE is going. It's going to workplaces. And people are looking at that and saying, wait a minute, why are you arresting people at work? They're working. They're not taking our benefits. And so what are you doing? Well, they're going after the low-hanging fruit because there isn't enough criminals. There aren't enough immigrants. Look, immigrants, especially undocumented immigrants, commit less crimes than native-born Americans. That's a fact. That's a fact. And so there is not enough criminal, illegal aliens out there for them to meet their deportation goals, their deportation agenda. So they got to go after people who are working. They got to go after people who are, by the way, here legally have work permits. They take those away. They take the green cards away. They're taking legal authorization to be here away so that they can meet their deportation quotas. That's the reality here, okay? And that's why you have a majority of Americans that are looking at what's going on with abject horror. And I hate to say I told you so, but yes, I told you so. This was going to happen if you allowed this man to get in to the White House, and now it's happening. Now, 54% of adults oppose immigration arrests at places of work. 53% of adults disapprove of arrests carried out like military operations, which is what they're doing. 42% disapprove of immigration officers wearing masks. And that's not the only poll, by the way. Last month, the Quinnipiac poll found that just 43%, so it went down in the space of a month, approved of Trump's performance on immigration. 54% disapprove of deportation, 40% approve, while 56% disapprove. Now, I think the approval numbers are still way too high for what's going on. But it is dropping. It is dropping. In fact, look, immigration was Trump's strongest issue with voters. Now, it's one of his weaker issues. People are seeing what mass deportation really looks like. They're finally seeing it with their own eyes. And they realize the horror that Trump has unleashed. Unless, of course, you're a MAGA psycho, okay, that loves watching human suffering over what is really a misdemeanor crime at most. Someone like Tommy Tuberville. All right. Move on here. If you haven't already, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. So yeah, give us a like, smash the like button. In what is a good example of the swamp being swampy, the IRS has killed the popular free direct file tax program after just one meeting with tax software lobbyists. That's right. It only took one. Only took one meeting. According to Wired, when the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, or Doge, arrived at the IRS earlier this year, leaders of the group had originally reassured workers that, hey, no, this free file tool, direct file, it's pretty popular. Don't worry, we're not going to cut it. Okay. All right. Now, however, after meeting with the lobbyists from the tax prep industry, people put in charge of supposedly making the IRS more efficient, suggested that, you know what? Why don't we get rid of direct file after all? Oh, that's according to multiple sources familiar with the situation, speaking to Wired. Now, the plan to kill direct file was initiated by Sam Korkos, although he's not the only one. Korkos is CEO of an Andreessen Horowitz-backed health startup that has ties to SpaceX. So Elon Musk, Mark Andreessen, all those people, big Trump backers, and maybe even some of them part of the Dark Enlightenment. So now, anyway, Korkos' suggestion to cut the popular service, was presented to the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, in the beginning of March. And of course, Bessent is like, okay, yeah, let's get rid of that. Now, what's interesting here is that the weekend before Korkos had suggested ending direct file, he had spoken pretty positively about it to IRS engineers. However, by the end of the week, he had drastically changed his tune. In fact, one source said throughout the week the tone had shifted. The decision to end direct file came out of nowhere. But it actually didn't, because again, he met with members of the lobbying arm of the tax prep software industry. And of course, as I'm going to let you know, some of the bosses, his bosses specifically, had some, investments in that same industry. Days after the weekend meeting, Korkos told multiple sources that he had met with Free File Inc., previously the Free File Alliance, a group of tax prep software companies that partner with the IRS to offer what they call free filing services. The group was organized by Intuit, which produces TurboTax, more than 20 years ago as a means of offering free filing services to lower income taxpayers. In return, the IRS promised not to create its own government-run online filing system, which is insane to me because the government already has all of our details. Why are we paying companies or using their products to do what the government already knows? I mean, other countries do not do what they're doing. They already have all the information. They're like, yeah, just file for free. It's fine. This is information it's not like this is a premium service, that is unnecessary. No, if you don't pay your taxes, if you don't file your taxes, you go to prison. So it's kind of important. They kind of have us by the balls here. And now these companies are like, well, since we got them by the balls, we might as well charge them, right? You charge most of them. But wait, isn't there a free file option? Can't you actually file for free? Well, yes, kind of. You can, but you also, it makes it very, very hard to actually do that. Look, the Federal Trade Commission, back in 2022, by the way, had taken action against Intuit over their free file claims. That's why they're no longer part of the Free File Alliance. Okay? Now, they said that the company had misled people because most people didn't actually qualify for their free file. Interesting. In fact, many people didn't, realize that it cost them money until well after they spent a lot of time putting in all their information to the system. This is how it misleads you. Okay, so, it's completely free to file. Okay, let me put in all my information here, my tax information. And look, I'm self-employed. Okay, filing taxes sucks. Okay, I do my own taxes every year, and it's annoying and terrible, especially. And you don't want to make a mistake, all right? So you put all your information in. You don't want to start over, okay? And so those people who click on the, supposedly free file option and find out later that it's not so free, they don't want to go back and redo all that. Oh, hell no. Hell no. Now, look, technically, you're supposed to be able to file for free if you make less than $66,000 a year. But because of Intuit's lobbying efforts, most people don't know that you can do that, and they end up paying these companies, which again use deceptive practices and lots of asterisks, right, in their free file options, where you end up having to pay. Now, reports, and I know this not only from personal experience, of course, but also there's reports from places like ProPublica that they did the investigative work, okay? In fact, they had signed up, and this is from 2019, they signed up for supposedly zero free filing, whatever, and they're like, okay, we're going to find out if this is actually free or not. Well, in one of the cases, they signed up as a Walgreens cashier without health insurance, making, not very much money, okay, under the $66,000. So they should be able to file for free, right? Oh, but it turns out because they didn't have health insurance, they had to fill out a separate form. Ooh, and that means, sorry, we got to charge you $59.99 for that extra additional form showing that you don't have health insurance. Sorry. Oops. So sad for your luck. Or if you're an independent contractor like myself, you have to pay, about $100 to file. About $119 actually, with TurboTax. Because of all those that additional paperwork. Anyone who doesn't have the most simplest 1040 has to pay. Okay, so you have to have the most simple, easy, single page, whatever tax, filings in order to qualify for free. Okay, so now, not only that, okay, ProPublica also reported that these websites had code that was introduced into their version of free file websites, right, that essentially hid the service from search engines like Google, making it nearly impossible for you to find that site without directly navigating to it. This is the kind of bullshit, deceptive practices that people hate, meant to nickel and dime us. And this is why the Biden administration launched Direct File. Why, they finally decided, okay, look, these tax prep companies, they're not really holding up their end of the bargain. They're not really offering free file that is easy for people to use. And again, most people didn't know about the free file option, and they make it very, very hard to get to it. Okay, and that's how they make their money, by the way, these companies. So now, they did this direct file pilot, and it was incredibly popular. People liked it. They're like, oh, wow, it is actually free, and it's actually easy to find, and it's actually easier to use. Wow, well, why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing more of this? Well, it only rolled out to about 25 states, okay, over this last tax prep year. And so it was supposed to roll out to more. But now, Now, as far as it being popular, 94% of survey respondents among 2025 direct file users said that they had a positive experience. Again, positive experience when paying your taxes. That's an amazing poll result. Because again, people don't like to pay taxes. And it's probably because of the experience dealing, being nickeled and dimed by, tax prep software is probably one of the reasons why people have such a negative experience with their taxes. So having this option, it makes sense that people like it. And there you go. But, and again, it was not only easy, but actually really free. But thanks to the swamp, it is no more. It is gone. And it wasn't just Korkos who is to blame here. Okay, he's just one of the Doge members. No, you also had someone else. Now, around the time that Korkos had arrived as a senior advisor at the Treasury Department in late February, you had other Doge members that were being onboarded to the agency as well. So it's got Doge's fingerprints all over it. Now, one of them is Todd Newman. Noonam. Yeah, that's it. Now, he previously held a tech company and joined as a Schedule C employee at Doge. Now, he was also Korkos' supervisor. And as a supervisor, Noonam was the Doge team lead at the Treasury for all IRS-related matters, according to court filings. Korkos reported to Newman throughout early May when he was named the Treasury CIO, and as stated in a separate court filing, the group worked on a variety of projects, including reviewing of the IRS's vendor contracts. In his financial disclosure forms, Noonam listed owning shares of Intuit as first reported by Politico. That's right. The guy who is responsible for killing Direct Free File, which is a competitor to Intuit, owns shares of Intuit. And here we go, swampy. Getting kind of swampy in here. And by the way, Noonam isn't the only one to own Intuit shares. You also have other Doge members, Linda Whiteridge and Tom Kraus, both at the Bureau of Fiscal Service, owning shares of Intuit. So, look, it's very likely that Korkos was directed to kill Direct File by his bosses that own shares of TurboTax's parent company on behalf of TurboTax. Either that or maybe Korkos was offered something by the lobbyists that he had met in return for killing the program. I don't know. But either way, this seems very, very swampy. This is corruption. This is how the swamp works. You kill a program that is incredibly popular, beloved by the American people, all for the benefit of industry donors. Conflict of interest indeed. Absolutely. All right. Last story here. In what could be a pretty explosive decision, as well as a telling indictment against the U.S., especially when it comes to the issue of LGBTQ rights, a federal judge in Canada has temporarily blocked the deportation of a non-binary American citizen over fears of persecution under the Trump administration. Wow. Angel Jankel, a 24-year-old non-binary American citizen who came to Ontario from Minnesota as a visitor in 2022, was set to be deported after failing to obtain documentation to remain in the country with their fiancé. Following a pre-removal risk assessment, an immigration officer had determined that deportation did not put Jankel at risk of persecution or serious harm. However, Jankel's lawyer, Adrian Smith of Smith Immigration Law, successfully argued that in light of the current political considerations going on in the United States, the political climate, Jankel had valid concerns over their safety. Justice Julie Blackhawk agreed with the argument from Jankel's lawyer, calling the previous risk assessment from the immigration officers, to be flawed and unreasonable, saying, quote, the officer had failed to consider recent evidence of the conditions that may have supported a reasonable fear of persecution. Now, Justice Blackhawk has ordered that Jankel's deportation be paused while their case is reviewed. This is pretty huge. It's a big, big deal. Jankel, who again identifies as non-binary and gender fluid, said that the current political climate in the United States is quote-unquote scary, and that they fear being targeted for their identity, especially in southern states where much of their family happens to live. In fact, they said, quote, no matter what I do, I look trans. People read me that way, they told the Globe and Mail. Okay, so now, obviously, transgender people have been targeted in this country. Okay, if you do not conform to the gender binary, this regime is showing that they will come after you. They do not believe that you are a human being. They want to erase anyone who is not specifically in that gender binary. Okay, advocates are saying, and they're correct, that the Trump administration their policies have created a hostile environment for trans and non-binary people. Okay, the entire LGBTQ community is at risk here. An immigration lawyer, Sarah McHale, said this is an acknowledgement that these changes are serious. This is something that has material effect on trans and non-binary individuals. So, look, non-binary people tend to get left out a lot of these conversations, but in reality, they're just as much at risk as any other members of the LGBTQ community. And of course, the people who are especially at risk, are trans women who have been, again, maligned, targeted, called, groomers and all sorts of horrific slurs against them for just being themselves. And so, yes, they have a target on their back from this administration, which went super, super anti-trans, especially during the election, but even afterwards, especially afterwards with all their policies. And they haven't really found allies in the Democratic Party, which should be on their side. But you have seen a lot of people, Gavin Newsom is a good example of that, throwing trans people under the bus, agreeing with the right wing on anti-trans policies and issues. And so, yes, even in places where you would think that LGBTQ members would be safe, like states like California, you have people like Newsom that are saying, actually, no, you're not safe here. It's no wonder that they want to stay in Canada, where it's better there. And I'm not saying Canada is a perfect place. They do have issues. Ask someone who lives in Canada, and they'll be honest with you. No country's perfect, right? But it's better there than it is here, certainly. And so that's kind of the problem, okay? Now, Canadian LGBTQ rights advocate Gemma Hickey applauded this move, however, saying, I think it's precedent-setting. This ruling will force people to pause and reflect just how dangerous it is for marginalized people there. Jankel's legal team says that the ruling could also open the door for other LGBTQ Americans facing similar threats under current U.S. policies to seek refuge in Canada. And so that is, again, really, really huge. If we have a situation where you have a large group of people who are feeling persecuted, being persecuted, seeking refuge in Canada as a result of the Trump policies, I mean, we haven't seen that before. Because, look, I remember, seeing reports, oh, yes, people fleeing to the United States to avoid persecution based on their gender or their sexual orientation. And now we have become the country that is so cruel to LGBTQ people that you have our citizens now saying, I can't go back there. I can't go back to America, to the United States, because of persecution from the government. So, I mean, that is just, in such a short amount of time, we have seen such a backslide on these fundamental rights to be your own person, the fundamental rights to be trans, to be non-binary, to identify who you are. And it's just so disgusting to see how far we've gone back in just this short amount of time. I hope that they are successful in being able to stay in Canada, that they are not sent back here. Because again, I do fear for their safety, and I fear for the safety of my trans friends, brothers, sisters, and everyone in between, having to deal with this extremely bigoted and cruel administration, a bigoted and cruel regime that we are now, unfortunately, having to live under. And I am afraid that so many of those people who are stuck here might not survive to see the end of this presidency, the end of this regime. And so that is one of the reasons why, if there is a safe place for them to go, I hope that they're able to go there. Hostile administration, indeed. Okay. That's all I got for y'all today. Thank you for watching the show. Please like and share if you haven't already. I'm going to read some super chats here. VMan29397 with a couple of very kind donations here. Sad news, the MAGA governor of Puerto Rico has passed a ban on gender-affirming care for those under 21 with the penalty of 15 years in prison. I thought it was to protect the children, right? That's what we were told. We were told, oh, no, we have to ban gender-affirming care to protect the kids. You're not... Are you saying that someone who is 18 years old cannot make the decision to have gender-affirming care? No, they're coming after adults. That was always the plan. First, you claim that, oh, we got to protect the children, and then you're going to extend that ban to adults, and that's what they have done in Puerto Rico. And so it's incredibly sickening to see. And I did see that report earlier, and it's just absolutely disheartening. Okay. Now, VMan29397 again says maybe this law will get it through people's stick skulls in left and liberal circles that Puerto Rico's statehood movement is a conservative movement. Yeah, I mean, look, I still would like them to be a state, but I would actually like to be have it be a left-leaning led movement, because I do believe that people in Puerto Rico do deserve representation and do deserve the benefits of statehood. But I don't like it that it is a conservative-led movement for conservative reasons. All right, Rachel Atwood says there's a non-binary candidate in Congress, for Congress in Massachusetts. I forget their name, so I'm sorry about that. For some reason, but I will definitely look them up. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. And mind you, Puerto Rico's drinking age is 18. Yeah, and that's the other thing too, right? So you know, in Puerto Rico, you can get a beer, but you cannot get gender-affirming care. And one is shown to ruin lives. The other is shown to save lives. And this is what happens when you have, extremism. Okay. The leftist movement in Puerto Rico is for independence. Okay, that makes more sense. That does make more sense. The case for independence. I'm just saying that if you're going to be a territory of the United States, so United States citizens, but not having that representation in Congress, that just doesn't seem right. So that would be my argument for statehood. But yeah, if you do want to be an independent country, then yeah, that makes sense too. Bethany Anders Beck is their name. Is UU Unitarian? I'm not sure what that means. UU minister, so I think sounds like it would be Unitarian, but anyway. Thank you for all those very kind donations and questions and comments. I do very much enjoy reading them and responding to them, so thank you for that. I will not be doing a live show tomorrow. I'll try to get some content up, but I have something that obviously that I have to do, so I can't be live. But I will try to get you some content tomorrow. But yes, Unitarian Universalist. Thank you, Rachel. I do appreciate that. The answers to that. It's been a long day, and I am exhausted. Captain Homer, that brings me to that. And by the way, I like the name. Take care. Stress is a disease, and you work in a stress-filled place. We live in a stress-filled place. Certainly. And so I would love to take your advice. Perhaps later, after I make dinner, I will go and play some. I have been playing a lot of Skyrim lately. Yes, I have visited Skyrim once again. I know it's an old game, but goddamn, is it so good? But now I'm currently going between Skyrim and Cyberpunk 2077. So I will enjoy at least one of those games later to try to help me de-stress. So thank you for that. I'm a member of the Unitarian Universalist. So I do like the Unitarians. I'm not a religious person myself, but there are, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like the left does not ally themselves with those kinds of religious movements enough. And again, maybe I'm wrong about that. And I hope I am, by the way, because I want to see more religious people join lefty movements. And there are plenty of people who do, join lefty movements that are religious, but I want to see more of it. I do want to see more of it. Okay. Anyway, let's see. I'm addicted to Grounded currently. Yeah, there you go. All religions and no religion. Yeah. Again, I just want to see people, get together, regardless of their religious background, to fight for the right kinds of policies. In Toronto, most of the churches are progressive and LGBTQ positive. I have a church in my town that is also, LGBTQ inclusive and positive. And I think that's great. And by the way, like, I see, when I drive past it, there are usually anti-Trump, anti-Musk protesters outside with signs and everything. There's not many of them, but goddamn, is it great to see. So I always honk every time I go by. I love it. So, all right, anyway. Thank you all. Love you. I'll see you back here live on Monday, but check it out. I will have try to have some content for you tomorrow for a Friday show. But with that, have a great weekend. We will see you on Monday. Love you all. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, everybody.